Welcome to Motivational Humanity. You are not alone. Good morning, everyone. Leadership. It's one of those words we hear all the time at conferences, in books, in podcasts. We talk about it like it's a job title, like something you get when you've climbed high enough on the corporate ladder. But here's the truth. Leadership isn't about a title. It's not a corner office. It's not even about being the smartest person in the room. Leadership is about one thing, the courage to show up, even when you can't control the outcome. Today, I want to talk about how successful people lead. Not just how they manage tasks or hit targets, but how they inspire, influence, and create real, lasting impact. We often grow up believing that leadership means having all the answers, that to be respected, to be seen as strong, you need to project an image of control, confidence, and certainty at all times. But the truth is, that's not leadership. That's performance. And it's exhausting because the harder we try to be perfect, the further we drift from what truly connects us to others, our humanity. Real leadership starts when we let go of the armor we wear to protect ourselves from judgment. When we stop pretending that we're infallible and start showing up as we really are, flawed, learning, growing, and yes, sometimes scared. Vulnerability isn't about oversharing your deepest fears in every meeting or turning every challenge into an emotional confession. It's about the courage to be honest when honesty feels risky. It's about standing in front of your team, your family, your community, and saying, I don't have all the answers, but I'm here, I'm listening, and I'm committed to figuring it out with you. That kind of authenticity is magnetic. Think about the leaders who've inspired you. Were they the ones who acted like they had everything under control all the time? Or were they the ones who admitted when they were struggling, who owned their mistakes, who made you feel like it was okay not to be perfect because they weren't perfect either? We don't connect with people who pretend to have it all figured out. We connect with people who are willing to be seen, imperfections and all. And here's the kicker. Vulnerability isn't just about being open when things are hard. It's also about showing up fully when things are going well. It's being brave enough to celebrate your successes without downplaying them, to say, I'm proud of this without waiting for someone else's validation. It's the willingness to feel joy, to take risks, to love, to hope, even when you know those things make you vulnerable to disappointment. In leadership, vulnerability looks like admitting when you've made a mistake instead of covering it up. It's asking for help when you're overwhelmed instead of pretending you've got it all under control. It's having the hard conversation even when your voice shakes. It's saying, I was wrong and I'm sorry and I don't know, but I'm committed to learning. Some people hear the word vulnerability and think it means weakness. But the truth is, there's nothing stronger than showing up as your whole authentic self. Because when you lead with vulnerability, you create space for others to do the same. You give permission for your team to take risks, to speak up, to bring their full selves to the table without fear of judgment. And that's where real innovation happens. That's where trust grows. That's where people feel seen, valued, and inspired, not because you were perfect, but because you were real. So the next time you feel the urge to pretend you've got it all figured out, pause, take a breath, and remember, the people you lead don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be human. They need you to show up, heart open, ready to be seen. That's not weakness. That's leadership. We often avoid difficult conversations because we're afraid of hurting someone's feelings. We think that softening our words, being vague, or dancing around the truth is the kind or considerate thing to do. But the reality is, unclear is unkind. When we're not direct and honest, we leave people guessing, filling in the blanks with their own fears and assumptions. And more often than not, those assumptions are far harsher than the truth we were trying to protect them from. Clarity isn't about being blunt or harsh. It's about being honest with empathy. It's saying what needs to be said, but doing it in a way that respects the other person's dignity. Because when you withhold the truth, whether it's feedback, expectations, or feelings, you're not sparing someone's emotions. You're simply avoiding your own discomfort. And leadership isn't about avoiding discomfort. It's about leaning into it for the sake of growth, connection, and integrity. Think about it in the context of feedback. Imagine you're managing someone who's underperforming. Instead of being clear about what's not working, you sugarcoat your words. You're doing fine, just a few small things to tweak. The person walks away thinking everything's mostly okay, maybe just a little adjustment needed. Meanwhile, you're frustrated because the real issues aren't being addressed. And they're confused because they don't know what's wrong. Eventually, tensions rise, and when it finally boils over, it feels like it came out of nowhere. But it didn't. It was there all along, hidden under layers of polite vagueness. Now flip that scenario. What if from the start you'd said, I want to talk about some areas where I see room for improvement because I believe in your potential and I know you can do better. Here's what I've noticed, here's the impact it's having, and here's how we can work together to improve it. That's clarity. It's direct, but it's not cruel. In fact, it's the kindest thing you can do because it gives the other person a fair chance to succeed. Clarity isn't just important in professional settings. It's vital in personal relationships too. How often do we expect people to read our minds? We assume that if they really cared, they'd just know what we need or how we feel. But people aren't mind readers. If you're hurt, say so. If you need support, ask for it. If you have boundaries, express them clearly. When we expect others to guess, we set them up to fail. And then we resent them for failing. That's not fair and it's not kind. Being clear doesn't mean stripping away compassion. In fact, the most compassionate thing you can do is deliver the truth with both honesty and care. It's the difference between saying, you're not meeting expectations, and saying, I believe in you, and because I care about your growth, I need to be honest about where we're falling short and how we can address it together. One creates fear, the other creates trust. And clarity isn't just about how we communicate with others, it's also about how we communicate with ourselves. How often do we set vague goals like, I want to be healthier, or I need to be more productive? What does that even mean? When we're not clear about what we want, we don't give ourselves a path forward. Clarity turns dreams into plans. It takes the abstract and makes it actionable. I want to exercise 3 times a week, or I'll dedicate 30 minutes every morning to focused work. When we choose clarity, we choose accountability. We create environments at work, at home, within ourselves, where expectations are clear, feedback is honest, and relationships are built on trust, not guesswork. So the next time you find yourself hesitating to say what needs to be said, ask yourself, am I avoiding this because I'm being kind or because I'm avoiding discomfort? More often than not, it's the latter. And that's okay. We're human. But leadership isn't about being perfect. It's about having the courage to be clear, even when it's hard. Because in the end, clarity isn't just kindness, it's respect, it's trust, it's the foundation of every meaningful connection we have. And when we lead with that, we create spaces where people feel seen, supported, and empowered to grow. Imagine walking into a room where you're afraid to speak up because you might be judged, ridiculed, or dismissed. Your heart races every time you think about sharing an idea. You second guess your thoughts, wondering if they're good enough, and you stay quiet, not because you don't have something valuable to offer, but because it feels safer. Now, contrast that with a room where your voice matters, where your ideas are welcomed, Your mistakes are treated as learning opportunities and your contributions are genuinely valued. That's the difference psychological safety makes. Psychological safety isn't about being comfortable all the time. It's not about creating a conflict-free environment where everyone agrees and no one gets challenged. In fact, it's the opposite. It's about creating a space where people feel safe enough to take risks, to disagree, to challenge the status quo, because they know that doing so won't cost them their dignity, credibility, or belonging. It's the belief that you can show up as your authentic self, flaws and all, without fear of humiliation or retaliation. Successful leaders understand that psychological safety is the foundation of high-performing teams. Why? Because when people feel safe, they're more likely to speak up, share creative ideas, admit when they don't know something, and ask for help when they need it. They don't waste energy managing fear. They invest it in meaningful work. But here's the thing. Psychological safety doesn't just happen. It's built moment by moment through the behaviors leaders model and the culture they cultivate. It starts with how leaders respond to mistakes. When someone takes a risk and it doesn't work out, what's the reaction? Is it blame, shame, and finger pointing, or is it curiosity, reflection, and a focus on learning? Leaders who create psychological safety don't punish people for trying. They ask, what can we learn from this? They normalize failure as part of growth, not as something to be hidden or feared. Because if making a mistake feels like the end of the road, people will stop trying altogether. Another critical element is how leaders handle feedback, both giving and receiving it. In psychologically safe environments, feedback isn't a weapon, it's a tool for growth. Leaders are clear, honest, and constructive, but they're also open to feedback themselves. They don't just tolerate criticism, they invite it. They say things like, what am I missing? Or how can I do better? This vulnerability signals to others that it's okay to not have all the answers. It shows that learning isn't just for the team, it's for everyone, including the person in charge. Inclusivity is another cornerstone. Psychological safety thrives when diverse voices are not just present, but heard. It's not enough to have different perspectives in the room if only a few voices dominate the conversation. Leaders need to actively create space for everyone to contribute, especially those who might be hesitant to speak up. This could mean pausing during meetings to ask, we haven't heard from you yet. What are your thoughts? Or following up with quieter team members privately to make sure their ideas are valued. Consistency also matters. People feel psychologically safe when they know what to expect, not in the sense of rigid predictability, but in terms of trust. Can they count on their leader to be fair, to listen, to treat mistakes as opportunities instead of failures? Or is feedback unpredictable, dependent on someone's mood that day? Inconsistency breeds anxiety, but when leaders are steady, reliable, and grounded, they create an environment where people can focus on doing their best work instead of bracing for the next unexpected reaction. It's important to recognize that psychological safety isn't just about the leader's role, it's a collective responsibility. Leaders set the tone, but every team member contributes to the culture. How do colleagues treat one another? Is there respect in disagreements, or do debates turn personal? Do people lift each other up or tear each other down when no one's watching? A culture of safety is one where people hold themselves and each other accountable for creating an environment of trust and respect. And this isn't just about work. Psychological safety matters in families, friendships, classrooms, and communities. It's the difference between kids who feel like they can tell their parents anything and those who hide their struggles out of fear. It's the difference between friendships that are surface level and those that are deeply authentic. When people feel safe, they don't just show up, they thrive. So how do you know if you're creating psychological safety? Pay attention to what happens in the quiet moments. Do people hesitate to speak up? Do they downplay their ideas with, "This might be stupid, but"? Do they avoid sharing bad news until it's too late? Or do they lean in, take risks, ask questions, and admit when they don't know something? If you see hesitation, it's not a sign to criticize, it's a sign to get curious. What barriers might be in place? What can you do differently to create more space for honesty, for courage, for growth? It might be as simple as modeling vulnerability yourself, saying, "I don't know the answer," or "I made a mistake," or "I need your help," can open the door for others to do the same. Because at the end of the day, psychological safety isn't about creating a space where people are never uncomfortable. It's about creating a space where people feel safe enough to be uncomfortable, to have hard conversations, to challenge ideas, to stretch beyond what they thought possible. And that's where the magic happens. That's where people don't just survive, they soar. When we think about leadership, the image that often comes to mind is someone standing at the front of a room, making big decisions, giving powerful speeches, or setting the vision for an organization. But real leadership isn't about standing in front. It's about standing beside, behind, and underneath the people you lead. It's not about authority, it's about service. The best leaders don't ask, "How can people serve me?" They ask, "How can I serve them?" Serving before you lead means shifting from a mindset of control to one of contribution. It's about recognizing that leadership isn't a privilege to be wielded, it's a responsibility to be honored. And that responsibility starts with understanding that your role is not to be the smartest person in the room, the loudest voice, or the one with all the answers. Your role is to create an environment where others can thrive, to remove obstacles, to amplify voices, and to invest in the growth of the people around you. One of the biggest misconceptions about leadership is that it's about power, but power without purpose is empty. True leadership is rooted in service. Service to a mission, to a team, to a cause greater than oneself. It's the willingness to roll up your sleeves, do the hard work behind the scenes, and put the needs of others before your own ego. This doesn't mean becoming a doormat or sacrificing your own well-being. It means leading with empathy, humility, and a genuine desire to make a difference in the lives of others. Think about the leaders who've made an impact on your life. Chances are they weren't the ones barking orders from a distance. They were the ones who saw you, believed in you, and supported you, even when you doubted yourself. They were the ones who asked, "How can I help?" and meant it. Leaders who serve don't just focus on outcomes, they focus on people. And they understand that success isn't measured solely by metrics and milestones. It's measured by the growth, well-being, and fulfillment of those they lead. Serving before you lead also means being present. It's easy to get caught up in the big picture, the strategy, the next goal, but leadership happens in the small moments, in how you listen, how you respond, how you show up when it matters most. It's in the questions you ask. What do you need to be successful? What's getting in your way? How can I support you? These questions signal that you care, not just about what people produce, but about who they are. Another critical aspect of servant leadership is humility. Humility isn't thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. It's the recognition that leadership isn't about you, it's about the people you serve. Humble leaders don't hoard credit or deflect blame. They celebrate their team's successes loudly and take responsibility quietly. They don't need to be the hero of the story because they're more interested in helping others become heroes in their own right. But let's be clear, serving doesn't mean avoiding tough decisions or shying away from accountability. In fact, some of the most profound acts of service come from having the courage to make hard calls, give honest feedback, and hold people and yourself to high standards. It's about doing what's right, not what's easy. Because real service isn't about pleasing people, it's about empowering them. And sometimes that means challenging them to grow in ways that are uncomfortable but necessary. Serving before you lead also requires self-awareness. You can't pour from an empty cup. Leaders who serve understand the importance of taking care of themselves, not out of selfishness, but because their well-being directly impacts their ability to support others. They set boundaries, practice self-reflection, and seek growth, not to climb higher, but to serve better. And service isn't confined to the workplace. It's a way of being. It shows up in how you treat your family, your friends, your community. It's in the way you offer kindness without expecting anything in return, in the way you mentor someone without seeking recognition, in the way you choose to show up even when no one's watching. Leadership isn't a destination you reach, it's a practice you live. It's not about climbing to the top of a ladder, it's about building the ladder with others, step by step, side by side. And the leaders who leave the biggest impact aren't the ones who shout the loudest. They're the ones who serve the quietest. So if you're wondering how to be a better leader, start here. Ask yourself who you're serving and how you're serving them. Because at the heart of leadership is a simple truth. You don't lead by demanding loyalty. You lead by earning trust. And you earn trust through service. That's not just leadership, that's legacy. When we think about courage, we often picture grand, heroic acts. Someone running into a burning building, standing on a big stage, delivering a powerful speech, or making life-altering decisions in the face of overwhelming odds. But the truth is, courage isn't always loud and dramatic. More often it's quiet, subtle, and deeply personal. It's found in the small moments when no one's watching, when the easy thing would be to stay silent, stay small, or stay the same. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision that something else matters more than fear. And in leadership, that decision shows up every day. Choosing courage over comfort means being willing to lean into discomfort, not because you enjoy it, but because you understand that growth, change, and authenticity live on the other side of it. Comfort zones are safe, predictable, and easy, but they're also where potential goes to stagnate. You can't innovate, inspire, or lead from a place of comfort because leadership is inherently risky. It's about stepping into uncertainty, making decisions without guarantees, and having hard conversations when silence would be simpler. Courage looks like speaking up when your voice shakes because you know that staying quiet would compromise your values. It's being honest with yourself and others, even when the truth is uncomfortable. It's standing alone in a room full of people who disagree with you, not because you're trying to be defiant, but because you refuse to betray what you believe in for the sake of fitting in. And courage isn't just about confronting external challenges. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is face your own reflection. It's acknowledging your mistakes without deflecting blame, admitting when you don't know the answer, and being vulnerable enough to say, I need help. That kind of honesty is raw and unsettling because it strips away the armor we use to protect our egos. But that's exactly where real connection and leadership begin, not in perfection, but in authenticity. Choosing courage over comfort also means being willing to disrupt the status quo. It's easy to stick with what's familiar, to do things the way they've always been done because it feels safe. But progress doesn't come from comfort. It comes from questioning, challenging, and pushing boundaries. It comes from being the person who says, this isn't working and we need to do better, even when that means facing resistance or criticism. As a leader, courage means making decisions that aren't always popular. It's choosing integrity over approval, long-term impact over short-term convenience, Sometimes it's having the hard conversation with a team member who's underperforming because avoiding it would be easier, but it wouldn't be fair to them, to the team, or to the mission. Sometimes it's letting go of a project you've poured your heart into because it's no longer serving its purpose. And courage isn't a one-time thing, it's a practice, a habit you build by choosing it again and again, especially when it's hard. Every time you lean into discomfort instead of backing away, you strengthen your capacity for courage. It's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. But here's the part we don't talk about enough. Courage often feels terrible in the moment. It's messy, vulnerable, and filled with doubt. It rarely feels heroic while you're in it. You don't feel brave when you're having the tough conversation, admitting a mistake, or standing up for what's right. You feel exposed, uncertain, and scared. But courage isn't about how you feel in the moment. It's about the choice you make despite how you feel. And yes, courage comes with a cost. You might face criticism, failure, or rejection. But the cost of avoiding courage is even greater. When you choose comfort over courage, you trade growth for stagnation, connection for superficiality, and authenticity for approval. You may feel safe, but you also feel stuck. The good news, courage is contagious. When leaders model vulnerability, honesty, and bravery, they create environments where others feel safe to do the same. It sends a powerful message. It's okay to take risks here. It's okay to fail. It's okay to be human. That kind of culture doesn't just inspire people, it transforms them. So the next time you're standing at the crossroads between courage and comfort, pause. Ask yourself, what kind of leader do I want to be? What kind of person do I want to be? And then choose courage. Not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. Because in the end, comfort might keep you safe, but courage will take you where you're meant to go. Courage over comfort, every time. So how do successful people lead? They lead with vulnerability, with clarity, by creating safety, through service, and with courage. But here's the secret. You don't have to wait until you have a title to lead. Leadership isn't out there somewhere, it's right here. It's in how you show up in your relationships, in your work, in your community. The question isn't, are you a leader? The question is, how are you leading today? And the answer, with heart, with courage, and with the willingness to be seen. Thank you.